So Pathway does something unique. Maybe they do a lot of things that are unique, but at the end of your residential treatment, in step two, they make you or they have every person there do what they call an SO, which I, what is that?
So your SO is basically just gives you a chance to get your family, your closest people there, to make your amends to them. Um, so it's not necessarily just apologizing for the things that you've done or said or whatever kind of went down. Because making amends is about acknowledging, not necessarily apologizing, but acknowledging what you did and then, pretty much saying that you're not going to do it again. So, I mean, that's really what it's about, kind of for y'all to be on the same page. And then, like, to have your close people kind of know where your head is at and where your head was at. And, just kind of getting all that stuff off your chest, kind of making a clean slate, so that way y'all can start building your trust again, and all that stuff. So, I mean, that's pretty much what it is. At least for me, I think that's what it is.
How did you prepare for that?
I cried a lot. I had to do two different SOs. One for you and Tim, and then the second one for my dad and my brother. And so I pretty much had to write down, and they would give us a sheet. So whenever it's time for your SO, because I think it's a week before you get out.
Yep.
Yeah. And so for your treatment plan, they give you an SO sheet, and it pretty much has like all the kind of points that you kind of want to hit. And so I went down and I kind of wrote everything all out for each person and each little kind of group and topic, whatever. I wrote it all out. And then I wanted to write it all out to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. And then that's another thing that I was really scared about. Was I was scared, okay, I wrote it all down, so is it going to sound rehearsed? Because obviously I don't want it to sound like that. But then, am I going to miss something, or am I going to like say everything that I need to say? And, everybody just kind of reassured me, everything that comes out in your SO, it's going to happen the way that it needs to happen and that it should happen. So if you miss something, it's not a big deal. And if you think of something later that you forgot to say, you can always say that, whenever you're out having dinner or anything like that. So, that's how I prepared, is I just kind of wrote everything down, and I would go over it once or twice a day and then just kind of leave it, because I only had a couple of days to do it. So
To prepare?
yeah, or no, I think I had a week.
Well, you had to do two of them, so
I had a week to prepare.
you might have had less time than most people, because
Yeah.
you not only got one under your belt, and then you ended up having a few days later to do a whole nother one.
Yeah.
How emotional was that?
Yeah, it sucked. Really. It was good, but emotionally, it was kind of like, oh my god, because I mean, the thing with y'all is y'all kind of knew most of what had happened and kind of went on. There was a couple things that I copped about to you guys, but a lot of it was kind of already all out on the table. And then with Dad's, it's like nobody really knew anything, so I was kind of had to cop. I had to like cop about everything. And granted, I didn't live there for long, so the list was much shorter than yours. I love you. So
Great.
So that made it easier, I guess. But no, I mean, it is super emotional, and it's scary, it's fearful. Especially because at that point I had worked on myself, and so the biggest thing for writing it all down and like going over it was I got to see what a shitty person I actually am, and that was the hardest thing, was to realize that and acknowledge that, because it sucks. it really sucks because, you know, when you're in that mindset, you know, under the influence and using, like, you think it only affects you. You really do. You're like, I'm the one using. It has nothing to do with you. So why is it, you know, it's only affecting me, but that's just not the case. Like everything that you do and you say affects so many other people than just you. And I had to realize that, and then, you know, come to terms with all the shitty things that I did and how bad they actually had hurt the people that I loved and that I cared about. And so, you know, that was the biggest thing, was like having to admit that, and then having to go back and having to admit it to myself, but then having to admit it to you, and, you know, thinking like they're never gonna love me, like, you know, like, or, and it, because it's hard, you know, you don't have much self-worth in the beginning, and so it's like I really did all these like really awful things to people. Like, no wonder I was alone, no wonder like people didn't love me. Like, how can they forgive me, how can they love me? And it's very fearful and it's very nerve-wracking, but, you know, after you get it done, it's such a relief, and, you know, you feel so much better after, because there's no judgment in there either, and you know that there's no judgment. You're the only one talking, you say everything, and then that's pretty much it, you know. So yeah, a lot of nerves.
And in the room was not just you and me and
Yeah,
you and the family
house.
member. It was
Yeah.
everybody in step 2 and counselors.
Yeah.
Everybody there keeping you accountable, and also there for support, I would imagine.
Oh, mostly there for the support. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a serious thing, and it is it's cleansing, I think, for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And you get to pick a friend to, you know, kind of talk about you too.
Right.
So
that's right. That was part of it.
I got to do that twice.
That was cool.
Kind of made me feel good.
They do like to build each other up, which is part of it. And, you know, after you've confessed and kind of laid it all out there bare, they call a friend up to, you know,
we kind of sugarcoat it a little bit.
Yeah, they tell you how far you've come and what they've noticed about you, and just, you know, how wonderful you are and how hard you're working and all of those things. And it's kind of like the Band-Aid on this open wound at that point. And it was, for me, not knowing what to expect, because I've never been in one, didn't know anything about it. I thought it was beautiful, actually, the whole thing. And the thought that every kid that's there experiences that with their parents or their loved ones coming out of their residential treatment. I think that's just a really cool thing that they do, and it's helpful for everybody. So I have one last question about that, though. Is it common for people to do 2, or is most people normally do 1?
Most people do 1.
Okay.
I was abnormal.
You were lucky and abnormal.
No, that's not lucky. I would have rather have just gotten it all out in 1, but I was like, you know, we're going to be stabbing each other. People are going to be throwing knives in here. We better just do 2. But
yeah, looking back, it might not have been that bad, but
it would have been awkward.
It would have been awkward, yeah. But it worked out.
And, you know, and listen, there's some things that happened, you know.
Okay.
So, there's some things that, you know, happened living under your roof that my dad necessarily didn't need to know. So it was kind of better for me.
Got it.
You know, because like I said, the list was a lot shorter with him, and I didn't need to expand in any way. So
yeah, that wasn't required.
No. I would have just ended up coughing a lot at dinner with you.
Oh.
I would have pulled you aside.
Oh yeah, and then after the SO, since I hadn't gotten to see Regan at all, because we've had to fly to Phoenix. That was not something that they do over Zoom or anything like that. That was an in-person thing, and it was required. They actually required us to come there in person to do her SO with her, which was fine. We didn't complain about that. I was so excited to see her, but they let her take the next 4 hours, because I think the SO was at 5 and we had to have you back at 9 or 9:30, something
Mhm.
like that. So we got to spend the next few hours together, going to dinner and just kind of having some really good time together, and that was
We went
super cool.
shopping.
We did. We went to the mall, wandered around, and just had a good time. It was a nice evening. So, and that was the first time I'd seen you since before you went to rehab. So, and I actually think I only talked to you on the phone one time for like 30 seconds in between there. So I really hadn't had much
I got in
contact
trouble
with
for
you.
that.
I know.
Which then later they actually
I
apologized
know.
to
It
me
wasn't
for.
supposed to happen, but anyway, it was fine.
Well, no, they apologized to me because they were like, "Oh yeah, her mom doesn't live here, so
Yeah.
it's actually okay."
Yeah.
And
But that was okay. I mean, we didn't want to break the rules, and we weren't trying to do anything shady. But so seeing you for your SO was so exciting and fun. So, and then I came to visit you after that too.